Hello, and welcome to day two of the advent of cyber through Try Hack Me. And with day two or challenge two, remember we're McSkitty and we're trying to undo everything the Grinch is trying to do to ruin Christmas. So we're still on web exploitation, and today's lesson is ELF HR problems. So this challenge, we're going to be doing HTTP requests and response, as well as authenticating or bypassing authentication in cookies. So, HTTP or HTTPS is the hypertext transfer protocol, and you use it every day. We're using it now. And we can tell that here because we see HTTPS. And whenever you get on the internet and you type in HTTP colon / you are invoking the HTTP protocol, which is a client server protocol, which provides communication between a client and a server. So, how that works is a client, which in most cases it's us at a computer, sends a request, and then the server process our request and then sends a response back to us. So an example is provided here where we're using a get, which is a HTTP verb, and we're specifying the host as tryhackme.com, the user agent, which is saying we're using Mozilla, and then the refer header saying, okay, we're coming from tryhackme.com. And that's sent to the server, and the server responds back and says, okay, a 200 or a successful response, and the server is Nginx 1.15.8. It provides a date and a time. Content type, meaning that it accepts text and HTML. Content length tells us how big the response is going to be, and then the HTML of said response. So, in the response, we could have HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We could actually have that in the request and the response. Now, with that, moving on, there's something in web security that's called, or web exploitation that's called cookies. So HTTP is a stateless protocol, meaning that the state is not saved between each request. So how do we save state or know, hey, the fluffy 007 has been to this site and has an account? Well, we use something called a cookie, which is metadata that is stored on your computer and is sent to the server when you make a request. And inside of that cookie, it says, okay, Jasmine has an account, or the fluffy 007 has an account, and they have logged in. So that's sent in the cookie. For cookies, there are many components, such as the name, which is the name of the cookie, the value, the cookie value, domain, which specifies the domain of the cookie and it sets the scope of the cookie, a path, expires max age, which lets you know when a cookie expires, the size, HTTP only, which specifies that cannot access through client-side scripts, meaning this cookie should not be accessed through, for example, JavaScript. Secure, meaning the cookie is sent over HTTPS. The S means secure, so meaning that it's sent over encrypted channels. Same site, a cookie is sent through cross-site requests. Same party, it extends the functionality of same site to first party sets, and then priority defines the importance of a cookie. So, now, as I mentioned, the cookie, and also it's in the challenge, a cookie is sent with every request, but you can manipulate the cookie. And you could do this through an assortment of ways. The example they have here is through the developer tools by pressing function 12 on my laptop. It opens the developer tools, and then you can go to the network application, excuse me, the network tab, and you can see the cookies, and then you can modify it that way. Why would we want to manipulate cookies? Well, as I said before, the example I gave, the Fluffy 007 is logged into the account. But what happens if I want to, instead of accessing the account as the Fluffy 007, I want to access the account as the administrator, right? Well, if the username is sent into the cookie, I can modify the cookie to say, instead of the Fluffy 007, it says admin. And then I could send that as part of the request. And the response from the server will come back and say, oh, this is the administrator. Let me render the page as the admin or administrator. So let's get started with the challenge. Hey everyone, I had to switch from Firefox to Chrome. So let's continue on with solving days 2 challenges. Remember, we're looking at cookies, which is data that is sent in the HTTP request, HTTP Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And let's get started. So let's open our static site. And going back to the challenge, it says register an account and verify the cookies using the developer tools in your browser. So we need to find what is the cookie that is created once we set up our account. So first, I'm going to press function FN and F12, and that's going to open the developer tools. And I'm going to go to the network tab, and as you see, nothing is being recorded. So let me refresh, and now I am going to sign up, and my name is going to be Fluffy, and my password is going to be a super secret password, and my email is fluffy007@test.com. This email address doesn't exist, and I'm going to say create account. And now we see, uh-oh, you don't have permission to register an account. Currently, please contact an administrator for more assistance. So right now we're a standard user, and we need to be an admin to actually see this information. So let's go back to, let's go to application. And under the application, I want to make this a bit bigger. So going to the application tab, we see cookies, and we see one for Static Labs, tryhackme.cloud, which we're on, and we have a cookie, user auth. So let's try to put that as the answer, user auth, and press submit. Okay, so that's the answer. Now, looking at the value, we see it's 7B636FD7 and a whole bunch of characters, right? So we need to figure out the encoding. So yes, the encoding type. We need to figure out the encoding. So there is something called hexadecimal, and it's a base 16 system, and it goes from 0 to FF. So going back to our cookie value of user auth, now that I see C, D's, and F's, I'm going to assume this is hexadecimal. So let's try hexadecimal. That's correct. Okay, so what object format is the data of the cookie stored in? So now that we know that the cookie value is hexadecimal, let's copy it and then let's decode it. Okay, since we know it's hexadecimal, let's now change this, and I'm going to go to CyberChef, or we can just say a hexadecimal decoder online, and we can change from hex to text. And we see here that we have company, the best festival company is registered true. And then we have the username, and the username is Fluffy. That was the username that I created. So that was the username that I created, Fluffy. So looking at this format, it looks to be something like JSON. And going to Google, again, Google is going to be your best friend. JSON is JavaScript object notation, and it is used for human readable text. Also, I believe in the challenge, they mentioned a JavaScript object, so that's what JSON is, JavaScript object notation. So let's try to put in JSON and see if that's the correct answer. It is. Now, it says manipulate the cookie and bypass the login portal. So now remember, in our, once we decoded the hex, we see the username is Fluffy. Now, what happens if we change the username from Fluffy to admin? And let's copy this. And let's do encode. I don't know. So we're going to put in the text that we want to encode in hex. And remember, we changed the username from Fluffy to admin. And we're going to say encode. And now we have this value here, 7B636, da 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 da. So let's take this and let's put it here. That's the correct answer. So now that we have the correct hexadecimal value, as you see here, we're not admin. We're still, the cookie here is still for Fluffy. So how do we change it? Well, if we double click, we can add the new value, which was added here, and let's refresh. I think I see my error. So before, the characters were lowercase, and as we see here, the characters are uppercase. So how about we change from uppercase to lowercase and see if that works. This might be very picky with the answer. So let's see. I'm going to change this very quickly. FD. And I'm changing the letters from uppercase to lowercase. And see if that works. Because typing it in with the uppercase letters did not work. So let's see if we change it to the lowercase letters. Okay, I'm going to copy this again, and I'm going to remove the value, add it, and let me refresh. Now that worked. We have successfully logged in as the admin user without a password. And we were able to do that because we changed the cookie value. So remember, when I registered the user, the JSON JavaScript object notation showed the username as Fluffy. That's what I used as a username when I registered for the account at Best Festivals Company. Then what I did was, once we realized that the encoding was hexadecimal, we were able to get the JSON and then change the name from Fluffy to admin and then re-encode to get the new hex cookie value and then put that in as the user auth cookie, and we have successfully logged in as the admin user. So now going back, it says what team environment is not responding. So looking at the three environments, finance, HR, application, I would say HR because it's red. So let's try HR. That's correct. And then what team environment has a network warning? So going back to the color coded, well, HR is not working. Finance seems to be great. Let's try application. That worked. And then also the next two are just, we can just complete. But if you want to learn more about authentication bypass, here's another room here. I believe you need to have a subscription to actually do that room. A subscription as in you need to subscribe to try Hack Me. And that's the end of lesson or day 2. So in this case, we did authentication bypass by changing the cookie value. Now, in most instances, your cookie would not be hexadecimal encoded because, as you can see, that provides no security because you can just decode that rather trivially. So, but in this challenge is just wanted to show how you could possibly do authentication bypass with a cookie. So I hope you learned something in this video, and I can't wait to see you for day 3. Have a good day. Bye.